I'm Chef Lachelle. I'm the culinary training manager at the Good Acre. That means I'm responsible for all the culinary training that happens at the Good Acre, and most of that is centered around our farm to school programming. And for those of you that don't know, I'll talk a little bit about what the Good Acre is in just a second. We also have joining me, as she mentioned, Nikki Warner, who is our communications manager at the Good Acre. And so you've probably been hearing from her already with all of the communications when you registered and getting the links and everything. And then we also have Kaylee, who is also works at the Good Acre as a farm share support staff, but also has been doing a lot of the translating for the VoCul program. And so Spanish translation. And so if you do speak Spanish and you need any sort of translation, I say do you want to divert them to put questions in the chat in Spanish? Okay, great.
Yeah, I put a message in the chat just saying if you have any questions,
Okay.
just please feel free to send me a message.
Great. Awesome. So yeah, and so that's who we've got from the Good Acre, and I think the rest of everyone that's on here. We've got Sarahi. Actually, if you want to pull Sarahi into the panelists, that might be good. Sarahi from Casa de Esperanza is with us. And then I don't think we have any other organizational collaborative partners on, but if you are and you want to say something, just raise your hand or put your question or comment into the chat. There is a raise hand button. So you can do that if you have any questions, and we'll try to keep on top of monitoring that. But again, I'll probably hold a lot of those questions to the end. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to get going to the next slide. Like we mentioned, I'm the culinary education manager, as I already said. There's a nice picture of me and a little bit about me. I am passionate about empowering people with skills needed to create healthy and soulful food. And, I believe that there's a lot of healing that happens when we can, connect to where our ingredients come from and cook those with love from scratch. And of course, in this program, which I'll talk more about, it being farm to school, we're really focused on, our young people and making sure that our food is appetizing and appealing to them, so that they'll want to eat more scratch local produce. So with that being said, a little bit about the Good Acre. For those of you that don't know, we're an organization that was founded almost 7 years ago, a nonprofit with our mission being to connect and strengthen farmers and food makers and communities through good food. And so we do that through a number of ways, mostly working with farmers, BIPOC farmers or farmers of color. And basically we provide grower support to the farmers in ways they may need. We also offer a warehouse that they can come and prepare their produce for the market. We also help them get their food to the market through our wholesale program, where we are able to sell that produce to different markets. And one of those markets is farm to school, or schools. And so in the work of getting more farm fresh ingredients to schools, basically what we've identified in that farm to school work is that school districts are often challenged with having a shortage of trained staff to be able to prepare locally sourced whole produce. And so ultimately that has an impact on their ability to serve fresh, that healthy meals to students. And so in that work, we developed a culinary training program at the Good Acre. And so we started going into schools and bringing schools out to the Good Acre to do training on culinary arts. And I still do that work. That's different from it's kind of its own, somewhat separate from the VoCul program because it's for existing staff. And so we've now developed that program. It's called Culinary Cultivation, and we continue to do that work in schools. But in addition to that, we've identified the need for recruiting more trained staff in the school kitchens. And so that's where the VoCul program was basically developed out of that need. And And so what we've created is the next slide here, which is VoCul. And Nikki, can you go ahead and play that video for us?
Yes, indeed. And Kaylee, do you want to just quick translate just a little bit of the introduction
Sure.
that Lachelle shared too? And then I will get that video going.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Just a little recap about the Good Acre and stuff.
Yeah, and just yeah, just a little bit of
A
that.
little bit about VoCul. Okay.
Mhm.
Ok, gracias, bienvenidos. Voy a decir un poquito más sobre VoCul, que es el programa que se van a enrollar. Es un programa de Good Acre, a donde nos enseñamos cómo hacer profesionales culinarios en la cocina de escuelas. Entonces, trabajamos mucho con granjeros en Minnesota y queremos que sepan cómo cocinar cosas de, I don't know how to say farm to fork, de granja a la cocina. Just like super brief.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry. Thank you, Kaylee. Sorry for moving so fast. I'll try to make sure I stop after each slide so Kaylee can do a recap.
And
we'll
I'm
go
going to go
ahead
ahead
and play
and
that video.
share.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Here we go.
Culinary at the Good Acre, we're creating a culinary vocational training program specifically to train people who are interested in long-term job opportunities within the school lunch programs. Introducing VoCul, a new vocational culinary training program from the Good Acre that takes a holistic approach to addressing a key barrier schools face in implementing farm-to-school programming in their kitchens, a shortage of skilled workers. To pilot our program, we're working with 2 local community organizations to connect the workers with the knowledge, with the skills, with the resources to be able to work with cooking from scratch, cooking local produce. By addressing the shortage of trained school chefs, we can grow a school's capacity to make and serve nutritious scratch-made meals. The program includes a 10-week culinary training curriculum with a farm-to-school focus, followed by a 4-week internship at one of our partnering kitchens. Successful farm-to-school programs are dependent on the skills of their culinary staff, and the more scratch cooking they can do, the stronger their farm-to-school programs will be. And that's a win for kids, a win for schools, and a win for our local food system. We're really hitting a lot of marks with this program, and so we have great potential to really impact a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully that can kind of give you a visual
Yeah.
of
Little visual.
yeah.
Yeah, just show you some of the students from cohort 1 in action. So that was really cool. We just got done with graduation the week before last, so I'll talk a little bit about that too. But ultimately, as we said, VoCul is a program of the Good Acre, and we aim to connect people who want to get stable, well, paying jobs and job opportunities with the schools that we partner with and work with that have identified that they want to, increase their farm to school efforts and ultimately increase their number of skilled, trained staff that can cook from scratch in those kitchens. And so ultimately, we've offered or created this program. It's 14 weeks total. Now that might go longer because we'll take a break in between the training and the internship. And that all kind of depends on the cohort and how that all, we kind of, I won't say we're like, not, we don't have it all planned out, but we want to be flexible to what happens in the cohort. We learned that a lot in the first cohort when COVID hit, had to be super flexible to a lot of things. And so, and this is a pilot program. So we're still learning what are, the best ways to go about a lot of the things that we're learning along the way. So before I get into the next slide, Kaylee, you want to just do a recap?
Este es un programa que va a sobrar 14 semanas comenzando en julio y van a aprender a cocinar para almuerzo escolar.
Awesome. And yes, it is a 14-week program, 10 weeks training, and then 4 weeks internship. But that might not be all consecutive back to back. You probably do the 10 weeks training, and then there may be a break for a week, and then it may be a week or two because we have to transition into the internship phase. And then the internship is 4 weeks. And then the intention is that you would, there would be a long-term employment secured after the internship. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it. Oh, I already went to that slide. But I wanted to acknowledge that we do have some community partners that we've been working with from the beginning. Now this has expanded and evolved from where we started from, but initially we started out with these 4 partners. And we do have Casa de Esperanza on the line. Thank you so much for being here, Sarahi. And hey, Sarahi. And then we also partner with Cornerstone Advocacy Services. So these are nonprofit organizations that work with different members of the community who might be interested in going through the VoCul training or interested in culinary education. And so we've been working with them. We've also expanded and it kind of opened up those partners, and we kind of have multiple organizations that may send participants our way or refer participants to apply to the program. But initially our initial partners were organizational partners, Casa de Esperanza and Cornerstone. And then in addition, our initial school partners, where we intended to do the internships and ultimately have job placement at, were Minneapolis Public Schools and Roseville area schools. However, the way that everything ended up turning out, we did not end up placing students at these locations. We actually ended up adding, well, we tried to get someone at Roseville, but that just, it didn't work out, unfortunately. But we ended up having some additional partners because schools had changed so much from COVID, and their scratch cooking had really gone down so much, and we didn't want to sacrifice the culinary experience piece for students during the internship. So we added on some additional partners that were doing more scratch cooking. So a couple of them are actually not schools, they're catering businesses, but they are community-centered catering business. So they're doing, they're cooking for Second Harvest Heartland, which is a food shelf, and they're a part of Minnesota Central Kitchen, which is an organization locally that's responsible for feeding lots of people with food insecurity. And so Chow Girls and Eat for Equity are both kitchens that work with Minnesota Central Kitchen and Second Harvest Heartland through their work. And so they're feeding thousands of people each week. And so we thought those were great alternative locations for people to complete their internships. And actually a couple of them did get placed permanently in permanent employment positions at Chow Girls. And so, hey, you know, we just had to kind of maneuver and do what we felt was best. And I think we did have some success in the long run with that. So that was awesome. Excuse my dog shaking in the background. All right, so next, I talked a bit about this being a farm to school program, and that we're looking to place people for long-term employment in schools and school nutrition services. And so ultimately we just, want to talk about that, when people think about going in the culinary industry, they might not always be thinking about going in, cooking in a school kitchen or being a school nutrition services staff. Now they used to call them lunch ladies, but that's not a good representation because it's not just ladies in the kitchen. And there's a lot to it. It's nutrition services, right? So but ultimately, there's a lot of benefits that come along with working in a school kitchen. There's there's daytime work hours, part-time and full-time options available. And then they have, good pay, competitive pay. as well as benefits that you might not even get if you were just working in the food industry in general. And then they're introducing more and more scratch cooking in schools. And so being able to be a part of, introducing students to more scratch ingredients and more deliciousness by way of local produce, I think is just, a win. And so, providing better nutrition overall is really the goal of the program and ultimately of schools who are doing a lot of farm to school efforts. So with that, you can definitely go to our website and learn more. We have a frequently asked questions page on the website that is, and Kaylee or Nikki, maybe you can pop the link to the website in the chat. And well, actually, if you link to the actual page, the VoCul page, you'll find these frequently asked questions. And so I'm going to actually link to that really quick. So because I may be able to answer some of your questions in the meantime by going to that. But so you'll see here, it just gives an overview of the program. Some of you have probably already gone here because you applied for the program. Here's that video we just watched. It definitely gives you an overview, 10 weeks of hands-on and online training. You get a stipend each week. There's 28 hours a week of work, and then a 4-week internship, which is the same 28 hours a week during that 4-week time. So here's the frequently asked questions section, and it keeps scrolling. FYI, Nikki, it scrolls to the top every time I open one of these up here. So what is VoCul? We talked about that. You can look into that. We definitely talked about who's involved, which are the school partners, and the training. Okay. So ultimately, we're looking to start the next training in July 19th, in fact, is what the start date that we're looking for, or looking at, or planning for, should I say. And then, like I said, it's about 28 hours per week for all of the 14 weeks, 10 of which are the training phase, which is a hybrid, mixture of lectures on Zoom, in-person cooking labs, and some online remote work that you kind of do at your time management schedule. And then 4 weeks of internship. Now that's all hands-on. There isn't any virtual piece to that once you get to the internship. And then after the internship, our intention is always to, help and hopefully give people the resources and tools so that they would end up with long-term employment at the end of their internship. And then so that graduation actually takes place after the internship. And so right now—
Michelle, sorry, did you say the 14th or the 19th?
The 19th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said the 14th. My bad.
Yeah, no, July 19th.
You're good.
Michelle,
I
can
said
I just go
14
ahead and,
weeks. 14 weeks, but July 19th is the day that we're looking at. What'd you say, her Sarahi?
oh, I was just going to ask if I can recap for the Spanish speakers that are
Sure.
with us. Hola, buenas tardes para todas las que nos están acompañando el día de hoy. Yo soy Saraí de Casa de Esperanza y nada más quería hacer un recap de todo lo que está hablando la Shell. Ella es la entrenadora o la persona que va a estar encargándose del programa de VoCul. VoCul es un programa de 14 semanas, donde 10 semanas se pasa pues más que nada atendiendo un entrenamiento que son módulos, también están accesibles en español, pero también por ese tipo de entrenamiento se paga. Son 4 semanas de pasantía y la meta más grande de este entrenamiento culinario es de que puedan asegurar un empleo con las escuelas que ellos están trabajando y que también pues puedan asegurar ese trabajo ustedes. La aplicación se vence el 19 de julio, que es lo que estaba mencionando, pero va a haber una breve tiempo en el final de este webinar para preguntar más preguntas. Y si tienen preguntas específicas, María de Casa de Esperanza también está aquí en el webinar. Yo y María podemos contestar preguntas específicas. Thank you, Lachelle.
Yes, absolutely. Feel free to interrupt me.
También tengo las preguntas y todo en el chat. No sé si están bien el chat, nada más para no interrumpir mucho.
And if I do forget to stop, just keep interrupting me if I get sidetracked by that. So thank you. Yes, so next is about where VoCul takes place. So as I mentioned, we have an online kind of portal for some of the coursework. A lot of the coursework takes place online. And then we also do online lectures through Zoom. And then we meet weekly in person. Now, we were meeting at the Good Acre kitchen. This is actually going to be updated. We're temporarily going to be at another kitchen, which the location will end up sharing later, that we'll be utilizing for this cohort, because we're actually in the process of working on developing our kitchen space to have a dedicated space just for training. And so while we're figuring all that out, well, we won't be at the Good Acre kitchen for this cohort, but students will learn about that location. It'll be in the St. Paul area. And then, like I said, there's a web-based component, and then the internships actually take place at the kitchen location where the intern is assigned. Did you want to recap that?
Yeah, I can recap it. Entonces vamos a tener 10 semanas de clases en una cocina en St. Paul. Para el otro corte, la cocina era en The Good Acre, pero para este corte vamos a ver otra cocina en St. Paul que nos pueden acomodar. Y después de eso vamos a tener un descanso por como 2 semanas, y vamos a tener 4 semanas de pasancia, a donde van a estar cocinando en una de las cocinas asociadas para las 4 semanas. Y va a ser total de 28 horas a la semana de trabajo.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. And now we did say, so that piece around the internship being 4 weeks, it's technically equates to 112 hours. And some people have completed it in the 4 weeks, and some people have completed it and taken a little longer. We are flexible. Life happens, and sometimes we've had to extend that beyond the 4 weeks. It's just an equivalent of 4 weeks at 28 hours a week. Okay. So next up is the part about, will you be paid will participants be paid? Yes, they will be paid. And it's equivalent to about $15 an hour. And that is for the 28 hours a week is $420 a week. And we also provide all of the, equipment and things that are needed. And we have some additional support and resources if there's additional needs for people to complete the program, whether that's, some minimal supplies, as well as childcare and transportation costs. We also have a budget to help with that. It's not unlimited, but we do the best that we can to support participants and eliminate any barriers or, stumbling blocks that might be in the way of completing the program. I'll let you go ahead and recap that.
Vamos a tener un estipendio de $420 semanal, que es como $15 a la hora. También podemos ayudarles con lo más que necesitan, si son cuidado de niños o transporte. Tenemos eso para ayudarles. And I think there's a question in the chat.
Yeah,
how many hours in the lab?
Yeah, so that is actually not finalized to the fullest yet, because I'm writing the curriculum right now as we speak. However, I am looking to, initially we were doing, and I'll talk about how the first cohort went in a second, but we're looking at 2 days a week in the lab, which would be 6 to 8 hours, likely closer to 6 hours. However, that's not all the way confirmed yet. So it's going to be up to 2 days, up to 16 hours in the classroom or in the lab, in the kitchen. last year, well, let's look at the other two things and then we can get into what happened with the last cohort. So here just talks about eligibility. We do want people to be 18, have valid ID that is required by the forms that we have them fill out, and then have a high school diploma or equivalency GED or the like. And, again, it's mentioned here, it's our intention to remove as many barriers as possible. And so it is possible that we do background checks as schools do background checks in their kitchens. And so those parameters are based on what a school might, not, accept on a background check. So that's what we really go by. And so those eligibility, requirements as far as the background check would just be on that case by case basis, but that, we want to remove as many barriers as possible. And not everything that shows up on a background check is going to be a automatic no, but just want to keep you informed that we do the background check and that could, impact things. You want to?
Yeah. Las cosas necesarias para aplicar serán diploma de escuela secundaria, verificación de antecedentes y también identificación del estado, pasaporte, lo que sea.
Awesome. And then the last thing here on the frequently asked questions is job placement guaranteed. It is not guaranteed because we don't have any control over whether another location decides to hire or not. However, we do try to support that process as much as possible. And sometimes it's the participants' decision whether they're going to stick with employment at a location. So sometimes it might be whether there's an availability of a job at that location. Sometimes it might be whether the student is interested, and sometimes it might be some other variable that will determine whether or not someone gets placed for a permanent education or for permanent employment. However, it's definitely the intention of the program, and so we try to do as much as we can to help that process along. Cool. If you turn 18 by the time the program starts, I don't have a problem with that, as long as you're 18 by the time July 19th hits and that you are graduated from high school or have an equivalency certification. Leonardo. All right. So I'm going to move on. You can learn more. Again, you can apply right here on the website. Absolutely, no problem. Yep, you can apply right here. There's an English and a Spanish application. And then for people, organizations that might be interested in hosting interns at their site schools, here's a partner application, and also organizations that might be interested in partnering with us by sharing the information or having us come and do a presentation with your constituents about the program as well. And there may be other ways to partner also there. Additionally, this program is approved program through the American Culinary Federation. So we're not and let me just be clear about this, we are not a culinary school, okay? This is a culinary training program, and that means that we provide culinary education through the program. However, this isn't a diploma. You get a certificate, and the hours that go towards that you put into the program are counted towards a culinary arts education. Should you take the degree further to extend your culinary education, the time that you spend in this program will count towards that. However, it's not an actual culinary school to the full extent of it.
Yeah. Can I recap that real quick?
Yep. I was just about to say.
Nada más queremos clarificar que esto no es una escuela culinaria, es un programa de entrenamiento. Entonces, estamos aprobados para entrenar en esto, pero no somos una escuela culinaria. Entonces no vas a recibir una diploma de eso.
So you can see in this picture, the students are holding their certificates. These are pictures from our graduation from cohort 1. Cohort 1 was really small. We had initially 8 students, and then we ended up graduating 6 of those students. And so this was an awesome experience for myself and them. We learned a lot in that time. And so, oops, I didn't want to go that fast. So let me tell you a little bit about how that happened. These 8 students, we've got Deba, Lily, Monica, Ahmad, Myra, and Marla. And so these were, they worked really hard for the program. We started in the fall of 2020, which was during, a pandemic. And so that was not the original plan. Originally, we planned to start with a larger cohort, although now learning everything I learned from this pilot, I'm glad that even without COVID, I probably would still stick to the smaller cohort just because I am very hands-on and work really closely with each student. And so that gets more and more, gets a little harder to do with more students. And so ultimately we started with the hybrid model of, we did a weekly lecture, and then they had their assignments, which I'll talk a little bit more on the virtual or the online platforms that we use for the coursework. And then we met once a week for our lab. However, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks into the cohort training, we had the second shutdown for COVID-19. And so we ended up having to go 100% virtual for like our last, I think 3 or 4 weeks of the program. And that meant all of our labs that were in person, now everyone was at home in their home kitchen, cooking on Zoom. And I had to grade without being able to taste anything. And so a lot of times we had family members taste and kind of score things. We just did the best we could with the program. And even so, the students really grew and really transformed even within that kind of very challenging space. And so they were still able to learn and apply those skills, especially when going into the internship. And so here's us with the graduation that we did a couple of weeks ago. Was a great time. Trying to think if I'm leaving anything else out about the cohort. Can you think of anything, Nikki or Kaylee? I think I'm covering it.
I would just say that like Lachelle was like super helpful in helping with the internships that followed, with the COVID shutdowns. A lot of school kitchens weren't functioning. So we worked with a lot of great kitchen partners to get to help the program participants complete those internships, which worked out really great. I don't know, Kaylee, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm just going to reiterate what you said in Spanish. Estas son fotos de nuestro primer grupo. Teníamos 8 participantes. Era un poco difícil porque era durante COVID, entonces muchas de las clases fueron por Zoom en el internet, pero todavía completaron el internado en las cocinas y todo salió muy bien, pero este tiempo ojalá podamos tener más clases en persona.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it was a great time, even with our small cohort. It was a really tight knit group. And I'm looking to continue to engage our graduates, with the next cohorts coming in and maybe being guest chefs, and also, sharing their knowledge and potentially engaging on events that we might have opportunities to do, cooking events. We didn't get to do very many cooking events with this group because of COVID. And so I want to be able to continue to engage with them as well. speaking of guest chefs, so each week that we met, we actually usually most weeks brought in a guest chef from the local community. So there's also a chance to engage with other professional chefs in the industry, not even just school chefs, but local culinarians and chefs in the Twin Cities. And so that was a cool opportunity for the students to engage. We had Gerard Class, who runs Soul Bowl. We had who did we have? We had Robin Asbell, who's a vegan chef. We had Chef Sarah Johannes, who's a chef at St. Paul College. Chef Trey Hardy. These are all kind of local. They happen to be friends of mine because we're chef colleagues. So that was a cool part of the program as well. And then we also did a field trip where we were able to go visit we split the groups up in smaller groups than 6. And we went and visited some school kitchens so people could really see what the kitchen at least was like, even though COVID was going on. And so it wasn't the same, but you could at least get into the space.
Ujú. También teníamos, cada semana teníamos un chef invitado para aprender un poquito más sobre su estilo de cocinar, y también fuimos en viaje de estudios a diferentes escuelas para ver sus cocinas y cómo funcionan.
So let's talk a little bit more about what this breaks down to. I know I kind of overviewed it a few times, but ultimately these are the elements of the training. So what we have is, the training is designed to be flexible because we have these online platforms and we reducing the in-person contact and adhering to social distancing due to pandemic, right? So, and now I had already, before the pandemic, been looking at and thinking about how to incorporate an online learning platform to administer a lot of the content for the program because I wanted to, just make it simplify things and make it easier for people to learn. The online platform that we use is called Ruby, and it's a really great platform that allows you to course through the and I'm just showing everyone this is the Ruby platform. And so what we cover in this course is culinary foundations levels 1 and 2. And so if I go in here and just quickly show you, ultimately I think there's multiple units under each. So we go through culinary foundations, knives, knife cuts, knife sharpening, kitchen safety, food and kitchen safety, dry heat cooking methods, moist heat cooking methods, stocks, seasoning, plating, and nutrition in the kitchen. And so that's level 1. And then level 2, I know I'm going through this really fast.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause you real quick.
Sure.
Ahorita, Michelle, nos están enseñando la plataforma que vamos a usar para entrenarlos sobre el internet. Se llama Ruby, y son un nivel cada semana, entonces van a ser creo que 10 niveles. Y esto van a completar esto en su propio tiempo.
Mhm.
Antes de reunirnos en la cocina para cocinar. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. Yep. So we have, this is level 2. And in this one, we go over, they give the foundations of level 2 overview, salads and vinaigrettes, vegetables, eggs, soups, sauces. We've got rice and grains, legumes, pasta, meat, poultry, and fish. And then we have baking basics and breads. and pastry basics. You got chocolate. And then there's an assessment after each unit. So these are the two main units that we course through in this course. In addition, students also have access to some additional courses that are in here. There's an eggs foundation. This is not a part of the training and it's not required, and we don't cover it in the course, but you have access to it when you're in Ruby. So you can go above and beyond and learn more about eggs, foundation, egg functionality, and there's a plant-based foundations piece too. Plant-based has really been becoming more and more a part of what people are looking for in food. And then we have a seafood literacy. And then there's one called Waste Not, about reducing food waste and how you plan and prepare meals. And so all of those additional courses are available in here in addition to levels 1 and 2. And we only cover levels 1 and 2 in the course. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that. You guys can all see my screen, right? Yes, with the courses? Okay, good. Just making sure I wasn't only showing the PowerPoint. Awesome. Okay, so let me get back to the PowerPoint. So ultimately, that's the
Michelle, it was only showing the slide. That's all I could see.
Oh, really? I thought I was showing everything.
Is it still in presentation mode?
Yeah, okay. I wasn't showing everything. I was showing just this. I'll show you guys really quick. Can you see it now?
It's
Yep.
loading.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So let me not do it that way anymore. All right. So here it is again. So this is unit 1, as I was saying. So here is what that looks like when you get into this portal. So I'll just quickly breeze through, like I said, knives, food safety, dry heat cooking. And so when it drops down, you go into the different units, okay? And so there's different tasks that you complete for each unit. Do you want to voice that over while I just scroll?
Yeah. Puse en el chat, pero un poco sobre los niveles, diferentes métodos de cocina. Van a aprender sobre caldos, carne, huevos, ensaladas, aderezo, comida vegana, mariscos, reducir el desperdicio de la comida o los alimentos, horneando, cómo usar cuchillos, y después de cada nivel van a tomar como una prueba sobre lo que aprendieron. Y todo eso va a ser sobre Ruby en el internet.
Yes, I'm just scrolling through here so you all can kind of see what the platform looks like. And then you can view the tasks again under each one, or you can hide the tasks for each unit. And you basically are coursing through these units. You take a pre-assessment, you go through the unit, and then there's a quiz after each unit. And there are some practice things where you can cook from home and share photos and things like that. But anything that's required on here for you to cook and get graded on, it all happens during the lab. The extra cooking and things like that you can do in here is kind of at your own, discretion and pace. But so here are the units. And then,
muchas de las recetas que van a tener que cocinar, los vamos a hacer juntos en la cocina. Si quieren practicar en su casa, están libres de hacer eso también. Pero no es, no me acuerdo la palabra, required.
right. They don't have to do it, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is our platform for Ruby Culinary Foundations 1 and 2. And then we have, again, showing here the egg foundations that you have access to, egg functionality, plant-based foundations. I'm not going to go into these ones right now just for the sake of time. Seafood, and then Waste Not. But these are all courses, like I said, that students have access to as a part of the program. Okay. So there we go. Now you all saw that. Thank you. All right. So in addition to Ruby, we also, I lecture on topics that are related to school food service, school nutrition services, school lunch history. We learn a lot about the school lunch requirements and things like that. That's not found in Ruby. There are a couple of culinary foundational things that aren't in Ruby that I do cover in the lecture as well. And we're actually moving all of these pieces to another platform, which I'll talk about in a second. So in addition to Ruby and what I lecture on, we also provide the Serve Safe, which is the food manager's certification. So that's a full training, and we offer the training through the Serve Safe online. So it's actually an additional portal that you go through Serve Safe, and it's 10 units, and we go through that. And that's coursed through as a part of your kind of coursework. I mean, it's all kind of planned out as far as what your timing will be, because what I do each week is I provide a layout of this is what you need to cover this week, and this is how much time it's going to take you to cover each thing. And, there are certain things that are scheduled, like a lecture or a lab, but the rest of it is kind of your time to figure out. I do assign what I think you should do on each day to stay on track. But again, it's really up to you. You want to recap that?
Ya, también van a tener la opción para certificarse en ServeSafe, que es un certificado sobre la seguridad alimenticia. Y cada semana van a tener tarea para eso, y después van a tomar una prueba al final de las clases para certificarse en ServeSafe.
Yep. So what we are doing, in addition to the Ruby online and the ServeSafe online, we're trying to minimize the kind of different things that you might have to go through and make everything go through one portal. So we're building an online, virtual online portal for the whole program. And so you'll be able to log into everything right through there. Now you might have to still log in to the other portals, but you'll be able to link to everything through the one portal. That's all in development. So wish me luck on that. That we can get that ready and up and running with very minimal to no glitches for the next cohort starting in July. So ultimately, the weekly routine breaks down to, we will have online Zoom lectures. I have this at 1 to 4 hours because I still, like I said, I'm revising it. Previously, I think we met 2 hours a week on Zoom on an evening, like 6 to 8 or something like that. And so I'm still kind of trying to figure out when exactly that will be. It likely will be an evening class. And so it kind of keeps people's days open. But I'm also considering removing the online lecture and just doing everything during our 2 in-person labs. However, I haven't concluded that yet. So that's something that I'll be finishing up when in my revisions of the curriculum. But I'm keeping it in here now because we may end up still doing it. So in addition to those online lectures, like I said, we have in-person cooking labs 2 days a week. And like I said, up to 8 hours. And that really is 6 hours of cooking and an hour of, setup and an hour of cleanup. And I think we did last cohort, we just did 6 hours. And it was a little tight. So I might expand that just a little bit to, make sure we have enough time in the kitchen. 1 day in the kitchen doesn't seem like a lot when you're going through a culinary program and what you want to do is cook. So I'm trying to extend that as much as possible while still being able to deliver all of the content that we have through the online portal and keeping it flexible for people. You want to go ahead and recap that?
Yep. Ok, entonces el calendario semanal va a ser una lectura sobre Zoom que va a durar 1 a 4 horas. Vamos a tener laboratorio de cocinar en persona que va a ser 2 días a la semana por 6 a 8 horas cada día. Y después el resto que van a hacer es tareas sobre Ruby o ServeSafe por como 10 a 15 horas a la semana y eso va a ser en su tiempo en casa.
Okay, were there any questions? I think I saw something, cocinar, practicar en casa is optional. Oh, I see, you wrote that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I've just been writing.
Yeah,
I've been kind of reviewing like slides in the chat.
Great, great. So ultimately, 4-week internship phase, that is up to 28 hours a week on the job training. Now, some people chose to work more than that, and then they were able to kind of work that out with their internship location. And some people spread it out in more weeks and did less hours per week. And so we're flexible about that. We just want you to finish the 112 hours of the internship ultimately. And then once you complete your internship, our goal is that you're going to get connected to that job placement piece with this kitchen that you've interned at or another kitchen. Honestly, we want to do what's best for students and for the kitchen partners. And so that just might look differently depending on who those partners and who the student or participant is. So we don't want to like pre-prescribe too much, but we want to be a resource in helping people as much as possible. And so, but ultimately graduation, we had a great time. It was kind of cold. We had bonfires. We had it outside because of COVID. And so it was a little cold out, but we had a great time. Even so, we had some bonfires lit. We grilled outside. The students cooked and made the meal for graduation. And we did a photo shoot, and everyone got their photo in their chef jacket, and it was just a kind of a great culmination to the program. And so looking forward to repeating that time and time again. And hopefully many of you will be able to be in one of these next cohorts. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but we will be looking to have up to 12 people in the cohort this time. I'm not gonna say we're gonna have 12. We hope to have up to 12. And so again, all of that is going to depend on how everything shakes out. So ultimately, that is my overview of the program. What questions do we have now? You can open it up. You can raise your hand, so you'll see in your toolbar there. You should see that there's a raise your hand button. And then also you can put if you raise your hand, I'll be able to like allow you to speak, put you on to speak. Otherwise you can put your questions in the chat.
Si tienen preguntas, pueden levantar sus manos. Si ven al fondo de la pantalla dice raise hand, ahí puedes levantar tu mano o puedes poner preguntas en el chat o también a donde dice Q&A, pueden poner sus preguntas y podemos hacer eso.
All right, I got one question from Carrie. Carrie, you can unmute and ask away. Good to see you on here, by the way.
Hi, Leticia. How are you?
Hi, it's Lachelle.
Sorry. So I have someone that's interested, but of course they have plans in the summer.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally pressed the wrong button, Carrie. I took you off. You got to unmute yourself again. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
All right. So I have someone that's interested, but of course has plans throughout the summer.
Mhm.
Is that a concern?
They have what, like other plans?
Correct. Vacation plans are going to be out of the state.
Oh yeah, they're gonna need to be present for the training program. But we'll this won't be the last cohort. So
yeah, all right.
Apply again for we're looking to do this in the spring and the fall each year, or like right around
Huh?
early in the year and then late in the year.
Yes, yes. All right. And it's an employee of mine too. So
Okay.
to
Oh,
do the
awesome.
spring and the fall,
Mm-hmm.
how would that work with work, employment?
What? So you mean how would them going through the program potentially interfere with employment?
Yes.
I mean, it would potentially.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, that's fine.
you know, if someone is, I mean, it depends. I would. It's really up to the individual. You know,
Yeah.
how the basics are, if you can work a job.
Yeah.
If it's a full-time job, it's going to be harder, right? If it's
Yeah.
a part-time job, it's
Yeah.
going to be easier for them to manage.
Right.
Really, what they need to be present for are the labs and any in-person lectures.
Okay.
Outside of that, their time is their own to time manage.
Yep.
As they see, you know, as works best for them. So if they have a schedule that doesn't interfere with the lab, or can work it out with their employer so that they can be excused on those days that we have
Sure.
labs,
Yeah.
you know, that's
All righty.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that you've answered our
to work
questions.
it out. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do up there.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
We are going to check off, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Yep.
I will just quickly add to that, to Carrie's question, is, you know, that's part of the reason we offer a stipend for the program too, is because we understand that participants may have other job obligations, and will have to kind of shift their schedule around. And so we really want to make it accessible to people. Like Lachelle mentioned, we're trying to eliminate as many barriers as possible, especially for those program participants who might already be working other jobs. And Lachelle, maybe you can share a little bit about how that worked with some of the participants in the first cohort.
With when they had other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we had one student who worked at a fast food restaurant, and she just worked really hard, you know, and it was a bit of a challenge for her, but what she ended up doing was going through her internship and ended up transitioning. So she left the fast food place and ended up working at Chow Girls now permanently, and the stress on her face is just, you can see the difference between when she was at the fast food place and when she went to Chow Girls. But you know, it's really, it like I said, it's really a case by case basis depending on the participant. You know, some people really need to focus on one thing at a time, and too many outside distractions could impact your ability to complete the program. Some people thrive under pressure and need multiple things going on, and can excel that way. So it really is about the participant knowing themselves and what they're capable of. We are going to have probably about 16 to 20 in-person hours, or I'd say up to 20 in-person hours. And then you've got the other 8 hours of work. Now, I'm still balancing that out. We might still only be able to do 8 to 12 hours of in-person contact, because of how much you need to balance the other workout. So I'm still working that out, and evolving that piece. But again, it's going to depend on the person. Now, there's a question from Craig here, and I know Craig was actually my culinary student at St. Paul College, so good to see you, Craig. So do we visit farms? We did not visit any farms in our last cohort, but that would be really cool. We didn't do that because COVID, you know, we couldn't do a whole lot of field trips and things like that. Now, when it comes to procurement, you know, that all depends on the growing season. So if we're able to procure the ingredients we need, a lot of times we are ordering much more food than just the local produce, like chicken and other dry goods and things like that we can't get all from farms. So we do have other suppliers we get our other, you know, ingredients that we need from, but as much as we can get in-house from the Good Acre during the growing season, we do. And so the Good Acre, through our wholesale program, we actually are able to get access to and provide the local produce that our farmers have. And so we utilize that produce in our program. And we definitely did that. We utilized, what we had available when we could source from our local farms. Now, when it comes to schools doing and procuring produce, that's all done, like I said, again, through our wholesale guy. His name is Steve. And he works with different schools and kind of figures out what type of ordering needs they have, what type of produce they have, and what we can provide. And that's where the culinary training piece comes in, because maybe we have produce that they haven't worked with. And so that's when I can go into schools and do recipes and training on some of those items if they haven't had the exposure to that. So so ultimately, yes, that is a part of it. And I like that idea. We hadn't visited the farms. We weren't doing a lot of field trips, and we were minimizing contact. But I think that that's more and more an opportunity potentially, and maybe could be something we could do this summer if it's appropriate to do so. So thanks for that thought. Let's see here. I can't confirm where the kitchen is yet because I'm still confirming that it's going to be at that kitchen. I can tell you where I'm looking. The kitchen that I'm looking at is called Kitchen on the Bluff, and it's a kitchen right on the edge of East Minneapolis when you cross over from downtown St. Paul. And so it's what, I don't know if one of Nikki or Kaylee can look it up and see what the distance is from the Good Acre, but I'd say it's probably, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 miles from the Good Acre.
Lachelle, really quick, I just noticed something while I was going to the website. This might be something you or Nikki needs to update, but for participants, when you say apply now, it actually takes, oh wait, what the heck? Never mind.
It's actually, yeah, you're correct, Kaylee.
It was taking us to the
Spanish
VoCul
application.
partner.
Yeah, the link to the Spanish application is linking to the partner application. So
Yeah.
Okay. Nikki will have to do that update. You there?
Yeah,
Nikki?
just
on it.
thought I'd let you know.
Okay, thanks for letting us know. Yep, Nikki's in charge of that. She'll take care of that. Thanks for letting us know, guys. Appreciate that. Let's see here. We got another question. Can you teach us how to create menus and to calculate for volume cooking? I'm a home cook, but I don't know how to cook volume. How do you do the calculation for more people? Oh, okay. So yeah, we do cover conversion. So that's converting recipes from like 8 servings to 50 or 100 servings. So that's part of the educational piece that we cover in the curriculum. And we do definitely cover like large batch cooking and those types of techniques. Now, however, because we're a small cohort and we don't have a large group of people to feed, we're not doing a lot of large batch cooking. We're not cooking for a school right now, but we cover those concepts in the class, right? And then in your internship is where you actually get that hands-on experience of doing the bulk cooking. But we do cover the concept. We cover measurements, conversions, recipes. Now we don't go in depth around like menu creation on a restaurant level, but we talk about the components of what makes up a healthy school lunch menu. And, we do create menus together. So I don't pre-prescribe the menus for our labs. There are requirements of, we have to make chicken this day and we have to pan sear it, but we together the week prior plan our menu for the next week together as a class. And so the students have an opportunity to be a part of that planning process as well as learn about that. And then I end up, getting all of the ingredients and we cook together in the lab. Okay. I don't know if you wanted to recap any of that.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out something else. I kind of was not paying attention, but mostly just about like the lab, right? And how we're just cooking in the lab.
Yeah, no, it was asking about like what do we cover calculating for larger volumes, large batch cooking, and
Oh, yeah,
that,
yeah.
like.
Yeah, I can quickly go over that. También vamos a aprender cómo hacer cantidades grandes de comida y cómo convertir las recetas.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just putting in the chat, Linda. Thanks, Linda. G had mentioned Loaves and Fishes. I actually have a call set up with them to talk about partnering. So, hey, maybe it might. I'm still. I don't have the other. I'm still looking for confirmation on the other kitchen. So if something else comes up, I'm definitely going to be all over that. So funny enough, we do have that set up. So awesome. Let's see. The commissary kitchen. Yep, absolutely. Totally. Let's see here. So you all have links to the application, to the web page. We got the Spanish application up in the chat, as well as Nikki's probably already corrected or working on correcting to make sure that that links to the right application on the website. What other questions might we be able to answer? Will we get a chance to make cultural ethnic food? Absolutely, we will. Most of the schools that we work with are looking for, people that know how to make a culturally appropriate food. And although, the Ruby curriculum really is really basic culinary skills, what we do is incorporate those different cultural foods when we do the menu planning. So usually, I am talking to the students about what their culture is and what their experience is with food, and we incorporate those things, but we also talk about what they're interested in cooking, right? So some students might be from Bolivia, but they want to learn about Thai food, and so we all talk and communicate about that, and then we plan our menus based on what people are interested in learning. And then just trying to round it out, and giving diversity to all the different menus that we do. So what did we do, Kaylee, last time? Let's talk about some of the stuff we made. So I think our
Yeah,
first class, we did oxtails, Caribbean food the first
ramen.
time. And that's when Chef Gerard class from Soul Bowl came. We did, what else did we do? We did pasta.
Did the ramen and pho.
Yep, we did ramen and pho for soup. What was that, soup week? I think we did. What else did we do? That ramen, man, we need to revisit
that was so
ramen.
good.
Man,
I know we did a whole breakfast week. That was really good.
Yep, we did breakfast.
That was egg week.
Yeah, we did egg week. We did a vegetarian day where we did everything, I think vegan or vegetarian, made some soups and stuff. We did egg week. Yep, we made hollandaise. I mean, everything, egg scrambled, hollandaise, omelets, all types of different stuff. So yeah, there's a definite, diversity of foods that we're going to be cooking. And now with trying to get us to 2 classes instead of 1, we'll be able to do even more. The one thing that I wanted to do more of last time was baking. We really didn't do, we had 1 day of baking and just really not enough. So absolutely.
Estamos hablando de las diferentes recetas que hicimos en el grupo anterior. Hicimos, oh my gosh, hicimos bastantes cosas. Si conocen el pho o ramen. Oh, that was my Apple Watch, sorry. Y también hicimos todo sobre huevos, la salsa holandesa, y también te enseñamos cómo hornear, no sé qué más, no me acuerdo de todo, pero muchas recetas diversas.
Yeah, and so we're also trying to kind of put a middle ground between like culinary foundations and what you learn at a basic culinary level, and then transferring that to a school who is cooking in bulk, like cooking for hundreds of students or more, and equipment different in school. So while we're cooking on a stovetop, on a range, or we might be cooking in a regular oven sometimes because we're just trying to learn basic culinary arts. Schools don't really have stoves. They have ovens. They have big skillets to cook things in. So we try to mimic that. We have some equipment at the Good Acre, and hopefully at the other kitchen, like a combi oven, which is an oven that does both dry heat and moist heat, right? So it can roast and it can steam and it can do those things simultaneously. It's very technologically advanced. And so a lot of schools have those types of ovens. And so we have those types of, we have an oven like that. We also have a steam kettle, which is a really big soup pot to make big batches of soups and stocks and things that are in liquid form that you can use in a kettle. And then another big piece of equipment is called a tilt skillet. And it's like a giant pot or a pan that you do all kinds of cooking like you would do on the stove, but in really large amounts, like for 100 or more people. And so we utilize a lot of that equipment, but we also do use a stovetop and a regular oven for some of the cooking because we're just learning basic culinary skills.
Una gran parte de este programa, este entrenamiento, será cocinando en granal, entonces aprendiendo cómo hacer estas recetas para grupos grandes de personas, como si estaban cocinando en una escuela, prácticamente.
So with that being said, I don't see any more questions coming in. Feel free to throw some more in there before we wrap everything up. Just know that we're currently accepting applications through June 1st. We will have our orientation date in early July, a couple weeks before we start. But you know, we have the application process and then we have to do the interview process in June, as well as the background check process. So that all is going to take, you know, a few weeks, you know, or more to get through those processes. And so we're looking at July 19th, which is that third Monday, I believe, in July to start rolling out and official start date of the program. And so in addition to accepting applications from participants, we also are accepting application from other organizations or schools or kitchens that are interested in partnering with us for recruitment and or for the internship piece.
Estamos aceptando aplicaciones hasta el 1 de junio y después vamos a tener entrevistas una semana en junio y después vamos a finalizar todos los participantes y comenzar el 19 de julio.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. I just saw he put something in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Craig, to answer your questions, we had homework assignments where we had to scale things, like calculate the scale. But when it came to actual cooking, we weren't scaling to those numbers. We were probably cooking so we had 6 of us. Well, it was 6 students plus myself, Kaylee. So we had about 10 people in the kitchen. Plus we cooked for whoever was in the building, which is just maybe a staff of a handful of people. So we were cooking for like 10 to 15 people when we were cooking hands-on. And when we were cooking, we would talk about like, this is what you might do differently if you were cooking for a large batch and things like that. But we did scale recipes, calculations, so we would know what the difference in ingredients would be. All right. Yep. We weren't cooking for large batch. The cooking for large batch happens during the internships. So when people go for those 4 weeks, that's when you're in the kitchen cooking for hundreds of people. And you have those culinary foundational pieces. And honestly, I think it's better that way because it can be intimidating for someone to just be learning culinary school and jump into cooking for hundreds of people right away. So it's a nice transition from the 10-week training and then being able to go and get kind of really getting your hands dirty or wet or whatever you want to think about it with, or in the kitchen and just getting comfortable with cooking commercial. just coming into the kitchen at the Good Acre, even if we're not cooking for hundreds of people, is a lot different. You, Craig, you've been to culinary school, but for a lot of people who haven't been in a professional kitchen, just that alone is something to kind of to grow with, right? You need to be able to lift for this kind of work. In general, I would say we're not doing big heavy lifting, but I would say 50 to 70 pounds is pretty typical for what people in a kitchen might have to lift, because they may have to lift cases and cases of food and different things like that. But we're not really doing a lot of that in this particular class, but you could be getting into a lot of that when you go into the internships. Because for instance, a lot of interesting pieces, like one of our kitchen partners was Great River School. So it's not a public school, it's a charter school, and they cook all their food from scratch, right? So there was a different dynamic there than maybe a public school kitchen. But then, the students that went over to the kitchen partners that were at Eat for Equity or at Chow Girls, where they're cooking for the community, they're cooking for, doing large batch cooking. But the difference when those kitchens they were working with a food shelf, a food bank, Second Harvest Heartland. And so because of that, every day they weren't ordering food, they were being donated food. And when you're being donated food, you have to utilize the food you have. It's not like, oh, we need lemons, so let's order lemons. It was like, oh, we got limes, so we have to use limes for the citrus or the acid that we need in this dish. And so there's a lot more of a creative element when you're going into those kitchens, basically trying to create a meal out of just random ingredients that you've gotten. So what's your you want to recap that, Kaylee?
Yeah, mucho de la comida que vamos a estar cocinando en la cocina va a ser desde cero, entonces estamos agarrando productos frescos y enseñando como las cosas básicas de cocinar, y después cuando comienzan su internado, ahí es a donde van a enseñarles cómo cocinar para esos grupos grandes. Entonces, lo que vamos a hacer durante las 10 semanas que están entrenando con nosotros en nuestra cocina será como convertir medidas de ingredientes y cosas así.
So there's a question here: do we have to be vaccinated? At this time, we don't have a requirement for vaccination. But what we do is practice all of the safety precautions in our building for the pandemic. So masks are required, hand washing, social distancing, all of the same protocol that we've been all used to for the last almost year and a half, or a little over a year now. And so we continue to practice that until we're outside of a pandemic. And also we take temperatures, we do pre-screening around, people having symptoms and things like that. And so that is going to continue. And so there isn't a requirement at this time for vaccination.
No tienes que tener tu vacuna, pero todavía estamos practicando cosas para limitar el contacto de COVID ahorita, como distancia social y tomando temperaturas, cosas así, desinfectando todo, manteniendo todo muy limpio para no enfermarnos.
Well, I just realized you guys probably weren't seeing any of my text that I was putting in the boxes. I was only sending it to the panelists. All right, so any other questions?
Oh my gosh, I just realized,
I
think I just realized everything that I was saying was only sent to panelists.
Were you? I just realized that too. Oh no.
Oh no.
So Rahi might have been seeing that, but everybody else wasn't.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Yeah, see, we're still
no.
learning technology. This web thing is a little bit different than what we normally do because in the classroom, we're just all in the same
God.
room. We might want to do that next time because this was a little bit different.
Yeah, I literally realized every message I was sending was only to the panelists. So
So
I think most of the things that you actually wrote, I actually sent to all the panelists because I was able to see them and I see that it says all panelists. So I think you should be good.
it should say panelists.
okay,
It should say
thank you so
panelists
much.
and attendees, though. Does it say panelists
Yeah,
and attendees?
mine were
Sarahi was
only
on
sent
it
to
with
panelists.
panelists and attendees. And I
Yeah,
sent the application link to panelists and attendees too. So
That's good. Panelists and attendees should receive it, but if you only sent it to just panelists, then the attendees might not have seen everything.
yeah, I just noticed that right now. So this
So
is
if there
my first
are any
time on-
attendees who have questions that didn't get answered, please put them back in the chat. If there's any other questions that you didn't get answered, we can stick on around for a couple more minutes. I think there was another question from Leonardo. Do I partner with any colleges or universities? Right now, I'm in talks with St. Paul College about not necessarily partnering, but I mean, maybe collaborating in recruitment for people who might want to start their culinary career here and then be able to transfer into the culinary school with the accredited, with the credits that they get through the program. But that's not solidified yet. That's still just talks happening. And then from there, we don't have any great partnerships, but very much open. So if you know of any colleges or universities that you think would be a great, collaborative partner for VoCul, please direct them to me. You can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. They can email me. They can go to our website, to the page on VoCul, and submit the partner application, and then they can get linked up with me. What happens is they submit that application, and then one of our support staff sets up a meeting for me to talk, and then we figure out what's the best way to collaborate. I'm also have gone to different organizations and done this same kind of presentation just for their participants. And so that's another option as well.
also, I will be sending an email with a recording of this webinar out to everybody tomorrow. So you can always respond to me with any extra questions that you have, and I'll make sure they get to Kaylee or Lachelle so we can get you answers too.
So I see Emmett put in the Q&A. Do we have agency as to who we intern with? There is definitely input that you get to put into that if you're interested in interning with a particular place. We love that. Please do. We want people to be at the best fit for them. So if you have a place that you want to do your internship hours with and we can connect and they're doing cooking, preferably a school, but not a total requirement, but just needs to fit in with kind of our program and vision for the VoCul program. But definitely you can have agency and input into that. But at the end of the day, we definitely, I learned my lesson last time. I don't want to give people a bunch of options. We need to go with one because it ends up being too complicated when we're trying to have one applicant choose between two different locations, and then then one location ends up being out of a person. So we want to match people with the partners in a mindful way. Any other questions? So the Nutrition Center does a lot of cooking. Craig says the Nutrition Center does a lot of cooking and the schools normally warm up. How much scratch cooking is done at schools? So that's a good question. So the Nutrition Center that Craig is talking about is a Minneapolis Public Schools Nutrition Center where they do a lot of the large batch cooking, and schools are warming up. However, that is what this work is about. This work is about expanding the ability to cook from scratch in schools. And so in order to do that, we have to have the staff trained in order to do that. Not every single school is cooking from scratch, but the schools we partner with them because they have a farm to school scratch cooking element at their school. However, when the pandemic hit, like I said, a lot of that went away for a lot of schools. And so that's when we had to add on different kitchens like Eat for Equity, Great River School, who still cooked from scratch. And we're also looking at expanding beyond just public schools into more charter schools and early childhood education places where they're still cooking for schools, but they have more autonomy over their cooking from scratch. And so that's a part of it too. We're not trying to exclude any public schools. We still want to work with as many schools as possible, but we do, it is our intention to connect our participants with schools that are cooking and kitchens that are cooking from scratch. Like it used to be done, right? Absolutely. What other questions do we have? Got about 1 more minute before our 6:30 time hits, but I'm willing to stick around if there's any other questions for a few more minutes. Otherwise, I don't see any other raised hands or any other questions coming through on the chat. So I think that we can end exactly on time at 6:30. And I hope that we will see applications from you all. And I put my email out there. So if there's additional questions or connections that you want to have made, please feel free to reach out to me directly. And I think Kaylee put her email in there. And so we're good.
Ujú.
Thank
Muchas
you all.
gracias a
Thank you all
todos
for
para
coming.
venir.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Great to meet with you virtually.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on the other side of
Esperamos
this.
ver, sí, esperamos ver sus aplicaciones. Muchas gracias por venir.
Thank you. Gracias.
All right. Good
Have
night,
a good
everyone.
night. Buenos noches.
Should I head off?
Sure, we can be done. We'll
Okay.
we'll catch back up soon. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I'm right in the middle of my finals. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, I graduate one day from today. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm super
Congratulations.
excited. Thank you.
Yeah, we gotta
Very
do
excited.
some sort of celebration. So we'll have to figure that out.
I know, we'll see. We'll see. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Have a good
All
night.
right. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.